Reddit. Last night I was walking around wearing my usual keffiyeh, Arab headscarf, when a person who thought I was wearing it as a Halloween costume told me they found it offensive. Has someone else's offense ever offended you? I was walking through the airport with my service dog. I also had on sunglasses that day due to a pretty bad migraine that was making me very light sensitive. A man walked up to me and inquired as to whether or not I was blind. And when I told him I wasn't, he took offense to the fact that I dared wear sunglasses in public since I was obviously trying to impersonate a vision impaired person with a seeing eye dog. I'm not sure why I didn't get offended. Instead I just started laughing uncontrollably. Who the heck walks up to someone they assume is blind and asks them if they really are? I'm a cross-country runner for my university. In the dead of winter I was on my way to practice when a woman told me I couldn't wear spandex unless I was runner, otherwise I was just being S. It apparently didn't apply to her since she was wearing it too. A woman told me I couldn't wear spandex unless I was runner, otherwise I was just being S. B. Runners don't own a monopoly on spandex. Cyclists, skaters, etc. Senior in high school. My biology teacher didn't like me much. I think it had to do with my friend I sat next to. She could not keep quiet in class. He starts talking about autoimmune issues. Mentions lupus. I say, somewhat under my breath, lupus. He goes off. Starts screaming at me to shut my mouth. I don't know what I'm talking about. He goes on yelling how his mother died of lupus and I better not disrespect him in class. I just stood up and said, Mr. Jerkface teacher, I have lupus. It's why I'm not in class a lot, and walked out. I felt a tiny bit sad for him, but mostly he was a jerk all the time and was using his own personal and very tragic circumstances to cut down a student who wasn't trying to be disrespectful in any way. Whoa, I hope he apologized to you. I understand how he flipped crap, but that definitely warrants a sincere apology. Teachers are humans, but so are their students. For reference, unless I am a white girl, I was at the bus stop having a conversation with a friend of mine when I jokingly referred to her as Tutor, B in Spanish. When I hung up, the man standing beside me, who looked to be of native South American descent, started lecturing me about using his people's words, and how I may think it's cute but I'm being racist. I guess he was offended by a white girl using Spanish slang. Well, I'm from Cuba. I'll use whatever Spanish slang I want, and honestly don't see the big deal in anyone else doing it. I'm a Jew. One day, when I was walking home from school with my Gentile friends, I was asked who my crush was, so I gave my honest answer. I swear to God, hope to die my crush is, insert hot woman. My Catholic friend said, Cosmo 5523, stop being so racist and making fun of God when you Jews don't even believe in him. I really need new friends. I saw the guy at the bar that looked interesting, so I introduced myself and attempted small talk. He told me that he was not going to buy me a drink and that he was sick of dumb, drunk girls like me thinking they could get whatever they wanted. I was stone cold sober and drinking water. You met a Redditor in the wild. Friend of mine is a polyglot. I live in a fairly diverse area of my city. A lot of Asian families, Chinese, Korean, Indian, Japanese, and when you're on the buses with them it's a bit different, because they assume that nobody speaks their language, so they can talk as loud as they want about whatever they want. And generally it's about how annoying you are to them if your bag brushes them, or you took the seat they wanted. It's pretty freaking sad. My friend sits and translates it all into English as loud as they can. Their faces are absolutely priceless. Upvote for teaching me the word polyglot. I was working at a retail store and a black woman accused me of following her to see if she was going to steal anything. I was just trying to walk to the bathroom. She was probably going to shoplift. I have Tourette's and problems with my speech frequently. I had someone come up to me and tell me, imitating people with Tourette's isn't funny, it's a real problem. I responded that I have Tourette's and the guy got angry with me and said that I would never understand how people with real Tourette's suffer. Right? Because my arm flailing around and the word I was repeating for 10 minutes straight was something I do for fun. While I'm working, while helping someone find an item on a shelf. Right? K. Frick that guy. In all seriousness, I do suffer from tics and they can be quite obnoxious. I once had a teacher who yelled at me for 10 minutes straight because I referred to a group of my friends as Mexicans. They were all born in Mexico. One time I was in New Orleans with my family and there was a little person convention in town, frick ton of midgets. So I was walking around with my uncle and he's 6'6" and pretty dang large and I'm 6'5". We see a restaurant that we want to try out, but the little people convention cluster frick of dwarfs are having a mass migration and taking up most of the street. They wouldn't let us walk through and we can't jump them because it violates the Bill of Rights or something. So I finally see an opening and we start walking through it, and then I feel someone tug on my shorts and I look down and there's a little person, baby-sized person, foaming at the mouth and glaring at me. If he had a ladder he would have beaten the crap out of me. He yells at me and my uncle for about 30 seconds because we were disrespecting them by walking alongside their parade. And he said we were belittling their cause with our height and we were making a mockery of their demonstration. I'm sure he was just having a bad day, but at the time it kind of peed me off. Now I think it's freaking hilarious, especially the scene of him grabbing my shorts and giving me a talking to. I went to a gig one time and I felt someone tugging on my jeans. There had just been a massive mosh pit, so I was concerned that someone could have fallen down and was being trampled. So I grabbed the arm and tried to pull the guy back up onto his feet. Instead, I lifted a small person to the correct height to punch me in the face for trying to pick him up. One time my friend told me her dog died, and I told her I was sorry, of course. She thought I didn't care, and proceeded to tell me off for not having any empathy. I told her my dad had died that past summer. Very much offended me, yay. I'm autistic. I have to fake empathy unless I'm high on bud. I'd get very aggravated and talk about how much it sucks when my friend is excited or in pain, and no matter how much I want to feel something my brain just won't let me and I feel like an butthole for it. Guy tried to hit my up for money. I was eating outside at a restaurant. He had a long convoluted story about needing to buy a bus ticket, punctuated by the phrase "this is a true story." I said sorry, I can't help you. To which he replied, I know I'm black. No mother sucker, I'm not giving you any money because you are obviously a freaking con man. I had an ex-girlfriend who was constantly making fun of my height. Yes, I get that I am the tallest girl you ever dated. She would constantly say stuff like I need a ladder just to kiss you, etc. It was annoying, but I didn't yell at her for it because it wasn't like I hadn't heard it from plenty of other people. One day, I made fun of her for not being able to reach something on the top shelf of our kitchen cabinet. She got pee. Funny how that works. Someone being offended by the same thing they are offending someone else with. To be honest, she had an ego problem. If I even dressed the slightest of butchiness, she would say I was trying to out-butcher. No, I am dressing however I want because I can. A girl I was dating wanted me to come by for a late night hookup. I was busy and had an important test the next day. I told her so and that I could only come by for 30 minutes. Later that night she made a blog post bitching about me coming over and using her for sex, and a bunch of her friends commented calling me an butthole and saying she should dump me. I was super offended as the only reason I came over was she asked and was okay with a quick hookup. Ugh. BB crazy. I've posted this before, but I'm white, and one time a drunk black guy started randomly touching my arm on the street. When my reaction made it clear I did not appreciate his behavior, he goes, "OHH, I see. You don't like black people. Isn't it possible I just don't like random drunk people I pass on the street touching me?" Someone had applied for a loan. They were Hispanic. Gave me a Washington ID, which was a dead giveaway in California that he wasn't legal. California required proof of citizenship to get an ID. Washington did not. Also, his social and birthday flag does not matching. I asked the rep helping him why his client doesn't have a California ID. Rep gave me a BS story about how he mows lawns in Washington part-time. I asked him not to insult my intelligence, and he replied with, "You're just racist. You see a Washington ID and a Mexican and you figure he's illegal. You're racist. You hate Mexicans." I replied, "Mi esposa es de Michoacan, Mexico. My wife is from Michoacan, Mexico. Call me racist again." I'm naturally effeminate and pansexual, but I'm a guy. I had a lady come up to me and say it was disgusting how we were making fun of gay people while I was walking with one of my gay guy friends and lesbian friends. The other day I was at a produce market standing in line. I was wearing my So Stanford hoodie, and this old couple came and cut in line in front of me, and the guy said to me, "Do you mind?" and I replied, "Yes, in fact I do mind. You don't just cut in line." He then proceeded to call me a self-entitled Stanford dyke. I don't attend Stanford, my BF does though. And who is the self-entitled one exactly? You should have said, "That's Mr. Dyke" to you. I make Asian jokes all the time, eating dog jokes, bad driving jokes, etc. and I'm occasionally told that I'm being incredibly racist. I get most of these jokes from my Korean mother. Once I was eating at a Chinese restaurant with my grandma and she started meowing. The guys at work tend to use some rough language, usually directed at pieces of machinery that don't operate as intended. However, every so often someone will say something to the effect of, "Watch your language. You can't talk like that when there's a girl here." Same goes for dirty jokes and anything else that they think I might be offended by. Sorry boys, you don't get to tell me when to be offended. I usually don't swear around girls unless I know they swear, and I don't make dirty jokes unless I know the girl very well. Not because I think they would be offended, but I assume they would assume that I'm stupid and unworthy of mating. I got in trouble at work for presenting a communication plan with the word disseminate. My guilty male baby boomer bosses believed the word came from semen being spread all over the place and lectured me about it in a staff meeting. I tried to explain that the word came from seminaries and they just took that as proof of the semen connection. WTF. I feel like this could be solved by having one of them Google the information. My college roommate dressed up as Charlie Chaplin. Someone came up and told him it was ballsy offensive to dress up as Hitler. After a minute or two of silent film style acting to clue the guy in, he broke character and screamed, "I'm Charlie Chaplin, you ignorant frick." One of my co-workers uses the word man like anyone would. "Oh man, I just saw this blah blah blah," and so on. It's a totally normal use of the word, but since I'm a girl, and the only girl that works there, anytime he slips up and says it, he stops the conversation to apologize. He thinks he's being sensitive and polite, but it really annoys me that he feels he can't use the same language around me because of my gender. Trying too hard to not be offensive can be offensive. In high school we were reading Things Fall Apart, which I'm sure most of you know is a novel set in Africa. I was commenting in class and referred to the characters as Africans. My teacher said in an "I can't believe you people" voice, "The politically correct term is African Americans." You silly European Americans not understanding political correctness. I mean, you even call South American Americans Hispanic. The nerve. The British are worse, of course, calling them blacks as opposed to British African Americans. I work at a school as a TA and one of the middle schoolers was talking about how people should say Native Americans rather than Indians. I told her that I'm Indian and she got very mad and went on a politically correct tangent about how I was being offensive. I looked at her and calmly said, "No, student name here, I'm Indian, as in from India." I'm in the army, so I see a good amount of protests from both sides of the fence, and both sides are usually pretty ridiculous and uninformed, but whatever. Anyway, I saw a group of anti-war protesters outside the place I was working. Typical bring our troops home stuff, no big deal, when another group of what I assume were military wives, moms etc show up and just start verbally abusing them. Really nasty stuff too. I was in uniform so I couldn't really get involved, but I wanted to point out that hey, these are the people I'm getting shot at for. I've been in places of the world that would execute people just for having those opinions, let alone voicing them. I don't want that kind of intolerance at home, from either side. As an army brat, the wives are the worst. They're horrible, gossipy, rank throwing B. My dad says it's how his troops prepare for war. Why would wearing a keffiyeh be offensive? They're useful. Many different people wear them, and they're not even related to a specific ethnic group. But then, if you want to feel offended, you can always make up any reason. My guess, the offended party thought Op was dressed as a stereotyped Arab. I am a tutor, and I was helping a guy with anatomy the other day. I am employed by the college, and I am expected to wear a vest when I'm tutoring. So I sometimes wear bold statement t-shirts without thinking anything of it, since it will be, mostly, covered while I'm working. Other students show up, so we work on studying together. What does your shirt say? I was wearing a Teach the Controversy shirt. I am a biology student, so I've rarely encountered any combative attitudes regarding these shirts. So you believe in evolution? Yes, I accept evolution. Are you an atheist? Oh, we're going there. Yes, you seemed like such a nice person. I was even going to ask you out. This was especially uncomfortable with many people around. I just didn't respond to his comment. Someone else starting talking after he said it, so that helped immensely. Were you in Manhattan Beach? Because I'm pretty sure I watched that happen. I'm really sorry that happened to you. Even more sorry that it probably happened to a lot of people last night. Manhattan has the word man in it. It's obviously part of the secret misogynic agenda. Ignore etymology. Acquire ignorance. Being French Canadian, I went to an Anglophone school when I was younger, and for some reason I sort of picked up one of my teacher's southern accent. He was from South Carolina, if I remember correctly. Anyway, fast forward a couple of years. I'm working at the bar of the small hotel I'm currently employed at when a bunch of Americans walk in with a similar accent to that teacher I had. They were not pleased. Why was this French guy talking with their accent? Of course, to make fun of them. The accent is usually much milder, but when I speak with people who have it, it gets stronger. Anyway, they complained to the management about it, who gave them a free beverage and free breakfast. So yeah, screw y'all. I find people getting offended to be offensive in its own right much of the time. Naturally, those people often take exception to my being offended by their offense. They take offense to it. I work for a small software company, which at the time of this incident employed about 15 people. We put on a conference for clients, which is a day and a half of training sessions and is a lot of fun both for us and clients. After one conference we received feedback that our company was incredibly not diverse and someone found this offensive. At the time we had 2 people of Hispanic descent, 2 of Oriental descent. Our president is very openly gay, and a good mix of males and females. Basically there is only one main group, found here in the US at least, that we do not represent, and apparently that makes us not diverse. I found this really annoying because we are a very open and welcoming group. Sorry we don't employ exactly who you want us to. I got a keffiyeh and a dishdasher when I visited Jordan back in 2001. One year I decided to wear them for Halloween. Me being an American blue-eyed dude of Irish descent. I went to one of the local bars and found out that I triggered some guy's PTSD, and it took 4 guys to restrain the guy from literally killing me. I did not wear them again till this year BC. I found out he was arrested on domestic battery and child pornography charges. I've gotten dirty looks for using my disabled parking placard. I want to scream at these people. Not only does it hurt to walk, if I do it too much my legs give out for 20 minutes to an hour. Once, in college, I got very drunk and came onto a girl who I probably had no business coming onto, and she shut me down. Needless to say, I didn't get physical or anything, just came onto her. Probably did get mouthy, but never said anything explicit, just crude. Next day she sees me in the cafeteria and accuses me of assaulting her. Turned out she was very liberal. I apologized twice for the miscommunication and misbehavior. Not half-assed, either. She seemed seriously offended and I got closer to groveling than I was comfortable with. Her boyfriend later said that wasn't enough and I told them both to leave me alone. Fast forward, and I end up dating her best friend and housemate by coincidence. One night I come into my girlfriend's house, drunk, and invited, and she calls me a creep for going up into my girlfriend's room and trying to take advantage of her while she is drunk too. Oh, okay. Fast forward again, this girl whose offense kept offending me have rowdy, not very good, angry sex, and then she accused me of giving her herpes. Got myself tested, clean, ran into 3 other people she was freaking at the clinic. They didn't think it was funny, I did. TLDR. Come on to girl who later accuses me of assault, then calls me a creep for sleeping with my girlfriend, then she and I bone. She accuses me of giving her herpes, which I didn't. Clean. DM. HS. I was screamed at for not letting my cousin, who was mourning the death of an acquaintance, abuse me. I was called an insensitive and sympathetic bee. I was mourning my mentor and close friend, my 7th grade English teacher who had died of a heart attack at age 27. Rest in peace CH. Just want to point out that being offended is not a right. Just because you are offended by something does not mean you get some special right to shut that person up or eliminate their opinion. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Freedom of speech in all forms is significantly more important than somebody whining because someone said something offensive. Life is inherently offensive because it isn't fair. People are in fact different, and people will point these differences out. If you are going to waste your time being offended by every little thing, then you are living your life in a tiny little bubble. I am around 50% Irish, but don't look it since my mom's side is heavily Northern European. Anyways, I typically go to downtown Chicago for St. Patty's Day. Last year my friends and I decided to get some leprechaun outfits to celebrate. As we are walking back to a friend's apartment on the north side, some random person says, "Quit offending the Irish people and the heritage with those stupid outfits." I reply, "We are Irish, sorry if we offended you, lass." Threw in lass just for a little nudge at here. She comes back with, "I am not actually Irish. We're Irish. Sorry if we offended ye. See. Ftfi." I was competing in a track and field meet with only the other school and parent volunteers around us. One of the kids from the other school came up to throw. He was a white guy with a giant brown afro. Very clearly a Jew. I leaned over to my friend and said, "Holy crap. That is an epic Jew throw," and we both laughed. One of the volunteers walked up to me and said, "I heard what you said and I think that's very offensive." I respond with, "Well, guess what, lady? I'm Jewish. My friend is Jewish. I bet you're not, because you're volunteering in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week. So thanks. TL. Deal." Lady calls me out for saying Jew. Turns out I am one. I'm not allowed to make fat jokes, even though I'm pretty girthy myself. A fat woman in a little car was speeding through an intersection and almost hit my rotund butt and narrowly missed my skinny sister as well. Ugh, I said. Fat people are so disgusting. My sister and I laughed ourselves to tears and a fat Mexican woman rushed up to me and started chewing my butt for being insensitive. I couldn't understand most of what she said, but when I relayed it to my sister-in-law who speaks Spanish, she told me this woman apparently called me a fat white freaking bee. So what the frick does she know? I had major surgery on my head and went to school still bandaged up and a little bloody the next day. I had teachers rebuke me for showing up because I was scaring the other kids. When I was in high school, our drama club did a play that dealt with a Jewish family and racism. I was from WV and my family was the Jewish population of our county. I wasn't in the show but acted as resident Jew and assistant stage director for the show, lending knowledge about various Jew type stuff. Now remember, this is a county allowed the local preacher to come by and give the 5th graders Bibles during music class. Well, upon learning about the subject matter of the play, about a dozen of the more religious Jesus students decided to make complaints about the play not being very sympathetic towards the Jewish people. Even a couple of teachers got in on it. They shut the heck up quick enough when they found out a real, living Jewish person was part of the act. I also learned that rural, redneck WVians don't know the meaning of the word kike. In high school there was this super straight edge Christian kid who would get super mad if I said "see" around him, but wouldn't think twice about talking about his dong. So I'd get girls to say "see" around him and just completely fire his whole white knight circuit. Not me, but rather, a state government and the entire gay community. A few years ago in Australia, the state of Queensland wanted tourist parks and nature parks to stop referring to little penguins as fairy penguins, another recognized common name for the species, because they thought the use of the word fairy would be offensive to the gay community. In turn, the gay community was offended that the government thought they'd be offended by the word fairy. I was about 14 at the time, and this was hilarious. Best part of it all was when a guy wrote into the newspaper with this: "If Queensland thinks fairy will offend the gay community, what are they going to rename their state?" I'm Native American, and I get offended when people get offended over stupid crap regarding Native Americans when they're like Jewish or something totally unrelated. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.